What if I told you the biggest prison in the world doesn't have bars, it doesn't have guards, and most people living inside it don't even know they're trapped right now? There may be a version of yourself living inside your mind, a version created years ago by a single failure, a single rejection, or a single painful moment. And here's the scary part. That version may be controlling every major decision you make today: your career, your relationships, your confidence, even your future. In the next few minutes, you'll discover why millions of people unknowingly live inside a prison they built themselves, and why one simple realization can make the walls disappear almost instantly. Because once you see this, you'll never look at yourself the same way again. Most people aren't trapped by their job. They're not trapped by money. They're not trapped by where they live. They're trapped by a version of themselves that no longer exists. Think about that for a moment. Years ago, someone made a mistake. Maybe they failed a test, lost a relationship, got rejected, embarrassed themselves in public, and without realizing it, they turned that moment into an identity. Not "I failed," but "I am a failure." Not "someone rejected me," but "I'm not desirable." Not "I made a bad decision," but "I can't trust myself." And from that day forward, they started building a prison, brick by brick, a prison nobody could see, because the walls weren't made of concrete, they were made of beliefs. Here's the strange thing. The human mind doesn't just remember the past, it protects it. Once your brain creates a story about who you are, it begins collecting evidence, even if the story is wrong. Imagine a man who secretly believes he's not confident. Every awkward conversation becomes proof. Every social mistake becomes evidence. But the dozens of times he handled things well, his brain ignores them because they don't fit the story. The prison gets stronger, not because it's true, because it's familiar, and familiarity feels safe. That's why some people stay in unhappy jobs for years, not because they can't leave, because their identity says, "People like me don't take risks." That's why some people never start businesses, never move cities, never ask someone out, never chase bigger dreams. The prison convinces them they're being realistic, but often, they're simply being loyal to an outdated version of themselves. Now here's where things become interesting. Psychologists call this identity consistency. Human beings desperately want their actions to match their self-image, even when that self-image hurts them. A person who believes they're unlucky will unconsciously notice bad events more often. A person who believes they're awkward will focus on every uncomfortable interaction. A person who believes they're behind in life will constantly compare themselves to people ahead of them, and every observation strengthens the prison. But here's the secret nobody talks about. The prison door is usually unlocked. Most people never test it, because the prison feels familiar. Imagine being locked in a room for 10 years. One day someone tells you the door isn't locked. Would you believe them? Probably not. You'd need proof, and that's exactly how change works. You don't destroy the prison first, you test the door. Small actions, small experiments, small risks. A shy person speaks up once. A dreamer starts a project. Someone who feels unworthy accepts a compliment instead of rejecting it. Tiny actions, but something powerful happens. The mind receives new evidence, and evidence changes identity, not motivation, not inspiration, evidence. That's why one courageous action can sometimes do more than years of positive thinking, because action tells the brain, maybe the story isn't true. And once doubt enters the prison, the walls begin to crack. Think about your own life. What's the story you've been carrying? Maybe you've outgrown it years ago. Maybe the person you're trying to become is waiting on the other side of a door you've never tested. The saddest thing in life isn't failure. It's living inside a prison that no longer exists. A prison built by an old version of yourself. So today, ask yourself one question. What if the story I've been telling myself is wrong? Because that question alone has changed more lives than almost any answer, and maybe it could change yours too. If this message made you think differently, subscribe to Mind Whisper, because sometimes the biggest breakthrough isn't learning something new, it's realizing what was never true in the first place.